Welcome to Empowering Xchanges, Tuesday Toast to Transformation.
Hey, Empower X community, Serena,
And Sarah here.
your host on this exciting journey of conversations for and by women. Join us on Tuesdays as we uncork the wisdom, share the challenges, and celebrate the victories that make us who we are.
From navigating career highs
to embracing the quirks of life,
we're here for it all. Let's raise a toast to transformation, sisterhood, and building a brighter future together. Pour your favorite beverage, tune in, and let's dive into the heart-to-heart talks that empower us all.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Cheers! Come on, Charlie.
Come on, Charlie.
Good stuff.
It's
And
yummy.
getting our daily dose of fruit.
That's right. All the raspberries.
Yep. In our
Seeds
cocktails.
and all.
Yep. All of it. All of it together.
So if you find a seed midway through our talking, please ignore it.
Yes. We will try to call it out for each other because
Right.
we are allies and friends.
That's right.
But we may miss it.
Friends don't let friends have things in their teeth.
No, they do not.
On that note,
Yes.
today's topic,
Allies in action.
allies in action.
So we had quite a few requests for a conversation on how men can be part of what we're building and how they
Absolutely.
can help. And I think this is a good conversation to kick things off.
Yeah, certainly not the last.
No.
But definitely have some meaty things that we can jump into.
Yeah.
We're going to try and control our passion for the
Passion.
subject,
Passion, not
emotions.
Passions.
But I think that there's a decent amount of men out there that want to do better.
Yeah.
And want to support women and want to see them rise and get a fair shot at things too. And there's just an uncertainty of how they do that without coming across as ingenuine, disgenuous. I don't know, whatever that word means.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too is about if people want to become allies, then yes, I hate saying that we are responsible for teaching them how.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't always fall on us. You know, people can take the steps to learn about it, but I do think that if they're genuine and asking to do better, then we can help.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's certainly ways in which you can read about and learn about things on your own, but I think getting a first-hand perspective from someone that's going through it is always going to be more meaningful.
Yeah. And you can have a conversation. If you know somebody's coming from a good place and trying to do better, having a conversation with them and helping them along is only going to help you too.
Yes, it has to be an open and honest conversation without confrontation.
Yes.
We cannot go into this ready to arm ourselves with opinions that can contradict the other's perspective.
Yeah. I mean, like, you would always want to say, if you are passionate about doing things better, you would take the steps to learn. And not saying that, you know, men or allies haven't done that. Right. But sometimes you don't know where to start.
Yes.
You don't know how to have these conversations. You don't even maybe understand what allyship is.
Indeed. And I think there's also another kind of preconception about when we start women's communities like this, that men are not welcome.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's entirely true. I think men are welcome to learn and to ask questions and be curious when we're in a safe space to do that.
Yeah.
But we still need a space in which it is men free in order to have some other vulnerable conversations that we may not be able to do in front of men yet.
Yes.
I think that is also something. I know both of us have worked at organizations where there are women's groups, where we, because again, being in a tech environment, we try and have some employee resource groups that help employees feel comfortable in whatever it is, that they're working through, that are a minority group in that arena. And I remember getting a lot of questions from men leaders before, well, you're not welcoming us into those groups. It's like, well, yeah, because we still need a safe space for ourselves to be able to talk through these things. But we absolutely need your support, and things will move faster and progress will happen faster if you are part of the conversation too.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like you're talking about how women need to have a safe space and men need to belong. It also depends on like the stage of the women's group too.
Yes, yeah.
If you're just getting it started, oftentimes it needs to maybe just be females and men sponsors possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But the larger that group gets and the more open conversations and speakers, men are definitely welcome to. I mean, you had that speech on Women's Day.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and we had a couple guys join us, and they were like, "I learned a lot from this." But they asked too, like, "Am I welcome?" I'm like, absolutely, you are.
Yeah, yeah. In a public forum, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think there's times and spaces that we need to ourselves too.
Yep. Yeah. But allyship in general means, frankly, just advocating for the women in your life, the women at work, being a little bit more open to understanding what the struggles women face, the microaggressions women have, how much harder it is sometimes to reach the pinnacle of their career and or be themselves in that type of environment.
And I think this is where we come into some wordplay around empathy and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And we need men to be empathetic to our situations, but we need them to be more compassionate and willing to take action on that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where we sometimes see things fall short.
Mm-hmm.
Is okay, well, this is cool. I understand better why you feel this way, but we're not cool.
I get it, maybe.
Right. Yeah. But what do I do to help you? What actions can I take that will help, change the outcome or change the narrative?
Yeah. And it's oftentimes simpler than you think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You have to be aware of some of these conversations that happen at work, like we were talking microaggressions.
Yes.
And either not doing them yourself or
calling others out on it,
right? Yeah. Like the concept of always asking the female in the room to take notes and to schedule the meetings and to buy lunch and to talk over a female who is talking in a meeting, or possibly taking their idea and using it for yourself and not calling out that it was your female colleague's point that they had already made. Mansplaining. I mean, there's countless,
or calling them emotional.
Yeah.
When it could be just they're passionate about a subject, or they're energized by it, or what have you.
Yeah.
Words matter.
Yeah.
And so actions matter, words matter, and it has to start with active listening. Mm-hmm. Asking good questions, being curious about it. But in as we talked about in a previous episode, we're not necessarily going to ask you for help in those situations, because we may not always know if you're willing to be an ally either.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're seeing something or reading, distress on a person's face or whatever it may be, like ask questions about that, curious, but then also be willing to listen to the answer. Do not prepare a rebuttal.
Yeah.
Be willing to listen to that person's perspective and the how it makes them feel, and then ask the questions of what could we have done differently to prevent this or to change this.
Yeah. Don't try to tell them that they are overreacting.
Yes. Oh, that's a big one.
Right? That is really tough too. But think about what your actions could have been, or how you would do things differently, and ask them too, like, if I would have done this, would that have been a better response too?
Right.
I'm looking back and thinking throughout my career, if we've really had true male advocates, and I think sometimes,
yes, yeah,
I think occasionally I've had male colleagues who've been, on the leadership team who have said yes, like Sarah said, instead of me having to do that. Yes. You just feel like, I will do it.
Yeah.
You've seen me.
Yes, I have.
but it's then again, then I'm too emotional or I'm too aggressive because I am calling out that is my work, that is my statement.
Right.
But having a male colleague do it calls it out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point, you are comfortable doing it. There are a lot of women that are not comfortable with calling a man out on that.
Yeah. It's taken a long time and just
maybe
some anger.
Energy there. Yeah. But yeah, I think that simple things like exactly what you just said. If I just said something and somebody else in the room decides to take that as their own idea and essentially repeat the same thing I just said,
and then people agree with it instead of
yes, then somebody having the courage to say, yes, I agree with you. Isn't that exactly what Serena just said or what Sarah just said? Or I think just something as simple as that is calling that out and making sure that people are aware of giving credit where credit is due. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge advocate in the workplace, just generally speaking, about I don't want to be a leader that is constantly taking credit for my team's work.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I am giving that credit to whoever came up with that idea, whoever executed on it, whoever delivered on it, because while it is my job as a leader to pull those things together and to help support them in happening, that person should absolutely get the credit for and the visibility, as we talked in a previous episode, of getting recognized for the good things that they're doing.
Yeah.
And yes, this is a team sport and we all need to work together, but there are absolutely points in showing and highlighting the individuals on the team that are doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you're in a minority group, it's even more important that happens.
Oh, yeah.
And so again, as we've discussed in a previous episode, me giving Sarah props for something or vice versa, we should and we absolutely need to do that. But if a man does the same thing, whether it's right or not, there's usually more weight that gets carried with that too.
Absolutely. I think we need to remember to tell people that we have given them props. That's something I've learned in the last few years too, is like, I agree, you should always give the people on your team credit for it. But in some instances too, I've just always done that when they're not in the room. But they need to know that too. Like your team members need to know that. You need to tell them too, male or female, if you've given somebody credit, be like, oh, FYI, I said this,
right? So
that they know it too, so they don't feel like they are out of the loop or not being given the credit in the rooms that they're not in too.
There's a coworker we both used to work with, Tia, who always says, my mama always told me, if someone says something nice about you, it is your obligation to go say that nice thing to that person. And I think that's
really great.
That's a really good thing to like keep in mind. It doesn't matter who said it, doesn't matter what it was said about, but take that compliment and go tell that person that it was given about them.
Yeah. Why is it so much easier sometimes to give people compliments when they're not in the room?
Right?
But that is
like they're going to argue with you.
I know, like you're going to argue. But that is definitely something I've learned in the last few years too, is how important that is. And like, just because you're telling people that they're doing a great job, you in a room that they're not in, you need to also tell them. And I think that's also part of allyship, is
absolutely
is letting them know that you're doing that, and so they can also identify you as an ally.
Yes. Yeah. I think the other key thing too about the allyship piece here is that we need the men that are our allies to help teach other men that are not willing to ask the questions and are not as curious and are not as open-minded. We need to help them we need our allies to help them unlearn and relearn.
Yeah. And to speak up.
Yes.
Just in general. Like that example we talked about giving credit just in a meeting is one way you can speak up. But there are so many other ways you can speak up. You can pull somebody aside if you don't want to have it in a large group and say, hey, here's maybe a better way you could have handled that. It doesn't need to be aggressive. It doesn't even need to be that confrontational. I don't think that the majority of people have ill intent.
Agreed. Yes. But as we said earlier, words matter.
Yeah.
And they can make or break somebody's day.
Absolutely. And, I think sometimes if you're not telling people how their words and actions impact people and what that actually does, it can cause lasting effects.
Absolutely.
And again, like we've said, like if a dude calls out another dude, dude,
yes.
dude, where's my car? I think sometimes maybe it's even easier for two guys to have that conversation, and it feels less confrontational than if we would say, "Hey, just want to let you know, this is not something you should say or do." I've had that experience. I don't know if you have, where I've taken someone aside afterwards and say, "Hey, maybe this is not the best way to say things, or say something differently." Immediately ran to our CEO and blew it out of proportion and said, like, "Oh, she's so offended, she's so angry," and I'm like, "What? I literally had a calm conversation with you about something you could have done better, and you said, yeah, okay, and then I'm like, and I'm dramatic."
That's right. That's right. It would not have been called dramatic, though, on that person.
No.
I think, too, to your point about leaving lasting impressions, we also talked in a previous episode about this epidemic of loneliness. And I think that that's also something, as more and more people are feeling maybe not more comfortable, but are willing to be more vulnerable about things about themselves, about, being a part of the LGBT plus Q community and all of that. Like, there's that there's potential retaliation and things that are going to happen on that end. And that's why I think allyship matters even more, is for, if you're willing and courageous and brave enough to put yourself out there as your authentic self, I hope that there are people around you that are going to be willing to push other people away if they become harmful.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, why when we think about how we address things, or how we approach things, or how we assume or expect certain things of people based on their agenda or based on their, beliefs and whatnot, we need to be considerate. And I will be honest, there are probably things that there are things that I need to continue to work and learn as well. But being open and open-minded to receiving that feedback, I think, is key to this too.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to be open-minded, then it's really difficult for anyone in those minority groups to feel included, feel like they belong, and feel willing enough to talk to you about that too.
Yeah. And from the work perspective too, to perform, right? Like if you're constantly afraid of people being rude and condescending and not understanding you, you will not be your best self. You will not give your best effort. You will not perform the best. I think that's something that we don't actually realize as often, is like, if people are themselves and they feel comfortable and they have allies and they have support, they can accomplish so much more than if you don't have those things in place.
Oh, that's such a good point too. I mean, one of the biggest things that we are passionate about is helping women meet their full potential.
Yeah.
And to your point, if you don't have that support system, whether it be at home or at work or wherever you're at, or whatever environment you're in, then it's going to be really hard for you to have the confidence or the self-esteem or the willingness to put yourself out there to meet that full potential.
Yeah. And on the, maybe not flip side, but slightly different too, I think we have this culture of a cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
And there are definitely things that people do that are so horrible that, yes, maybe they can't come back from. But at the same time, we're humans, and humans continue to learn and continue to grow, and frankly, because of that, often change your views and your stances on things. And I think sometimes we have to give people that grace of growing. and that they
Yes.
can learn and become a better version of themselves, become a better ally. There are plenty of examples of people who maybe said some shitty things or had some shitty actions and realized they were wrong and got better and learned and put in the work and got better.
Yes.
And there's that balance of having that grace and really calling people out and ruining them too.
Yeah. I think most generally speaking, people want to be better.
Yeah.
They want to do better. And we have to remember too, I think this is a whole relationship side of things, is you can't keep bringing up past of what was wrong and what didn't work before if you want people to grow and move forward.
Who are they now?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that might have been an opinion they had at one time, but they've been willing to change their thoughts and be open-minded to other things. And while it was frustrating in the past, like, let's embrace the now.
Yeah. I think it's harder to move on from that because we're in this world of social media and everything is digital, and and you say something stupid and it's out there forever. Take a stupid picture. Granted, there are some things I think, again, you probably can't really come back from, especially if you haven't grown up and become a better person. But I know there are plenty of things and ways I thought, when I was younger, when I was in college, and didn't have as big of a worldview or knew as many people, that my ideals and the way I approach things have greatly changed. And frankly, they probably change every year because of things I learn. And as they should.
Yes.
As they should.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why we need experiences in our life, why we need to put ourselves in different environments that we wouldn't normally be in, to be willing to be around others, or to, again, going back to allyship in action, is being willing to sit with women, if you're a male, and understand better. Because as we know, you know better, you do better.
I mean, it's why just at a baseline, diversity is important.
Yes.
Because not only will you get different perspectives that will probably make your marketing, your sales, your product better, but everyone grows and learns from different perspectives.
100%. All right, so I think we've talked about a few things: standing up for women in meetings, being willing to ask their opinions if you've noticed that they've sat quiet, actually calling out folks in the room that haven't given an opinion or thought yet and asking what that is, restating whose original idea that was, giving credit where it's due, taking the notes yourself, or scheduling the meeting yourself, or getting lunch yourself. All of those things that typically fall on a women type of role. Not even a role. It's something you're expected to do as a woman, I think, sometimes. You're better at it.
Yeah.
You can be good at it too if you try.
Yes. We just have maybe more experience at it because we've got it shoved on us. Another thing too, I mean, we talked in the last episode about the importance of females mentoring.
Yes.
Females. But if you, again, like I talked about how like there were not a lot of female leaders in a lot of the companies I was at. So there's also a huge importance on allies and men mentoring females, sponsoring females. We talked about that a little bit about men sponsoring like these female groups at companies, but all of that is really important too, because if you're already in those positions of power, the only way that we're also going to get more females is if men are on board as well.
Absolutely. Mentorship is always an interesting thing to me because by definition, you think of it as a person helping another person that's at a different level or different experience, helping them grow. I always look at mentorships as like a joint effort.
Yeah.
I absolutely would love to be mentored by someone above me, but there's no reason why I shouldn't be mentored by someone next to me or
and have it just a mutual relationship.
It is. There is, having those conversations, there is something to learn on each side.
Yeah.
And I think, again, we talked about putting a label on it, maybe uncomfortable for some. So maybe it's not a true formalized mentorship.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a conversation or having a weekly chat or a coffee catch up or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But having conversations and getting to know folks that don't look or talk or sound or as educated as you is incredibly important to your own personal and professional growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of things that can be done. I think we've given a few ideas, but if there are more ideas, if there are other ways that women have experienced allyship in their work or men have expressed it, again, let us know. Let's have a conversation about it.
Indeed.
But it's so important as we move forward and as we continue to make progress.
We're going to have that power of female relationships. We're going to have the fact that us females are coming together, but again, in those instances, if you've got men that are willing to stand by you and work with you to accomplish those things, it's going to change so much quicker.
Yeah.
And we can have such a bigger impact. So
absolutely. So have those hard conversations, or have those conversations that maybe make you uncomfortable with people who are a little bit different from you, and find out how to do better.
Yeah. Come on, Charlie.
Yeah. Come on, Charlie.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's a wrap on another episode of Empowering Exchanges. We hope you enjoyed this chat and would love to hear your suggestions for additional topics on challenges, triumphs, and the laughter that bonds us together.
Don't forget to hit subscribe, share the love, and join us on Tuesdays for another dose of wisdom, wit, and warmth. Keep shining, keep thriving, and keep toasting to the incredible journey of womanhood.
Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.